I am here at the studios of KALW in San Francisco with Jeff Sharlet, author of the excellent, frightening, must-read book C Street, The Fundamentalist Threat to American Democracy. Jeff is also author of the best-selling book The Family, in which he really does shed light on the secretive group of fundamentalist religious politicians who live at 133 C Street in Washington. Jeff is the only journalist to get an insider's view of this group. Now, Jeff, when I read your book, The Family, I was floored when I read about how they treat women, and I was surprised this didn't get more attention. Can you talk about the family and its relationship with women?
Yeah, I mean, you just take the case of Jenny Sanford and why that doesn't get more press. Jenny Sanford is the wife of Governor Mark Sanford, who had the affair with his mistress in Argentina. And I'm actually not interested in piling on him about that. That was a terrible marriage. He had, the emotional maturity of a 14-year-old boy, and that's how he broke it up. But that's the problem with fundamentalism. He was trying to get out. The tragedies at C Street dragged him back in, and then the public responded by looking at Jenny Sanford as this icon and not looking at some of the things she was actually revealing about their attitude toward women. The most disturbing aspect of her story is when their marriage was on the rocks, Governor Sanford, as is the way within the family, sent his wife to C Street for counseling by other men. And they explained to Jenny Sanford that she should not raise her voice in anger or speak harshly with her husband or even address these issues at all, that those issues were to be decided between men, that his brothers in Christ. Now, it's not that he should be doing the things he should be doing, but that the men would decide that amongst themselves. And meanwhile, her job was to keep him sexually satisfied because he'd been anointed for power by God. I mean, this sounds crazy and vulgar, but it's actually the most frightening part of it. This is not a fringe idea. This is this idea they call male headship. The idea that as Christ is to his followers, so a man is to the women in his life. And the man can then say, but, like Christ, I am a servant. And they call themselves servant leaders. And they say, with my wife and with women in my life, I have a relationship that is separate but equal, with apparently no historical sense of that phrase's horrible, horrible echoes in American life.
It reminds me of The Handmaid's Tale in many ways.
It does, and I kind of resisted that comparison for a long time, Margaret Atwood's dystopian future. And I resisted it because I thought that in as much as we look at these sort of dystopian ideas, what do the fundamentalists want? We lose hold of what have they already done.
Right.
And that's actually, in that case, I mean, like Stu packing the states, they've already rolled back reproductive rights. It's not coming.
Exactly.
It's here.
It is here. And that's the other thing, is talk more about the effect that the family, and just to let people know, this is a home, again, on 133 C Street. All men live there.
Yeah.
But women come in to cook and clean.
I spoke with one young woman named Kate Phillips, evangelical Christian, had gotten involved, had gone to Christopher Newport University in Virginia, which is a public university. The president is a guy named former Senator Paul Tribble. Guy involved with the family decided to use the honors program as a recruitment program for young men and women to get involved. She ends up living in a house called Potomac Point, which is a sort of where young women are not groomed for leadership, but groomed for marriage to the future leaders. And so this isn't what I thought. I thought I was coming to Washington for a government internship, and instead she finds herself at C Street, bringing them coffee, turning down beds, making, cleaning floors, and she's a servant. They've got this house full of men, guys like Senator Ensign, former Congressman Chip Pickering, who met with his mistress in the house, registered as a church, and they're bringing in Christian college women to turn down the beds. I mean, the amazing thing about it is you don't have to be a fundamentalist to say, you know what, that might be a little bit inappropriate. That might be kind of crossing the line and putting people in an awkward position.
And as far as you know, that's still going on today?
They don't back down. We'll give them credit for that. I mean, they really believe in the rightness of their cause. And the interesting thing about C Street and the family is they're appealing to a lot of young people who come from more traditional fundamentalist homes. I mean, we're talking about places where you couldn't have a sip of wine, dancing was forbidden, things like that. So they experienced this as a great liberation. But then some of them, like my friend Kate Phillips, see through it. She ended up leaving. I think that the straw that broke the camel's back for her was she had experienced abuse as a younger person. And she was sitting in on a session where David Coe, one of the leaders of the group, was counseling young men and women on what kind of relationships they should pursue in life, this sort of courtship model. And he told the men, don't get involved with a woman who's been abused because she'll just want more. And, you know, so Kate had the good sense to get up and walk out, but she was concerned about the women who stayed behind, women who were in marriages that were just shy of arranged marriages. I mean, you would see this again and again. When I first lived with the group, I was recommended to live with a group by a man. You had to be recommended to get in. I was recommended by a man who left when his fiancée was raped. She was raped, and he said, I have to get on the next plane to go and be with her. And as they said, no, you don't. What was she doing in that bar? She was exemplifying, as one leader told me, the Jezebel spirit. Fortunately, he had the good sense to get out and leave. But, you know, so many of these stories of people who get involved with the best of intentions, and for a lot of them, the way out, what opens the window to, in fact, seeing even the bigger picture, are the individual experiences with gender.
After you wrote The Family, did any other women step forward to tell you their story?
Yeah, I've heard from a number of women. You know, the critique of The Family, and it was fair, was that it didn't particularly address gender.
Right. That's why I wanted more. I said, Jeff, you can't just give this information to me. I need more.
I mean, I had 600 boxes of documents in their archives. You know, the only mention of Doug Coe, the longtime leader, the only mention of his wife that I found was a tribute to what a wonderful woman she was because she had always waited so patiently and quietly in the car. That's all I could find. There may be more in there, but I couldn't find it. So my book naturally reflected the world as they saw it in this group of male power. Now, there's women involved. And what's interesting about gender in that is when they do work with women, the leader of the group says we work with power where we can, build new power where we can. If there's a powerful woman, they want to have a relationship with her. But what they're going to do then is start, in effect, gendering her male, seeing her as male, treating her as male. That's how they dealt with Hillary Clinton, who I should say is not a member of the organization, but had this sort of strange kind of liaison that's not so much there anymore.